Sure.
Yeah. Honestly, you could.
I have to call that guy.
Okay. This year is the Segulot of Tzitzit and wearing it and the hidden meanings behind it. So why did Hashem create the mitzvah of Tzitzit? Is it to give us another extra protection? Is it for other Segulot that we'll obviously get further into? It's all those and a little more. So Hashem's reason for it is he wanted to give us a constant reminder that that we are God-fearing Jews, that there are 613 mitzvot in 613 mitzvot, and how we see this and how do we know that it's a reminder is that the context here that immediately before Hashem gave the commandment of Tzitzit, the Torah says that a man who has committed a serious avera, the Midrash explains that Hashem taught Moshe that this man that had sinned, that did the avera, he didn't know his responsibilities. He didn't remember it. He wasn't constantly reminded. Right away after this, right, Hashem told Moshe, it talks about the mitzvah of Tzitzit. So we see here that it's not just a beged. It's not a piece of material that you just have an easy mitzvah. You go down to the Nook or Shopsies and just pay $15 and get a pair of a tank top and strings. It's not that. It is a constant reminder that we have a responsibility in this world and to remind us of all the mitzvot that we have obligated to us. Now, the process of making tzitzit is the Shulchan Aruch states that if you have a beged that has a slit around more than halfway up, it is required to have 4 strings where you put into the hole and it comes out to 8, and 5 knots depending on Ashkenaz and Sephardi. There are different ways to do the 5 knots and in between each knots how many loops it goes around. Now, according to the Shulchan Aruch, when someone is making tzitzit, he has to have l'shem tzitzit. He has to have in mind that you are making a pair of tzitzit that someone's going to be wearing it and having the mitzvah of tzitzit. Now, if let's say someone doesn't have in mind, the person that's making the tzitzit does not have in mind that he's doing l'shem tzitzit, it is puzzle. He would have to go and unravel the entire tzitzit and go from the beginning. Now, when it comes to having l'shem tzitzit, now we have when people nowadays we're mass producing tzitzit, they want to know if a goy can make a tzitzit. So according to Rashi, you are allowed to, a goy can make a tzitzit as long as he has someone above him that's watching over, because since we're mass producing it, you can't get always a Jew to make it. Now Ramban says it's puzzle because when it comes to a goy, he's not going to have the right to make a tzitzit. He has to have kavanah and a din. With a guy, he's not going to have that always constantly with him. So for Ramban, it's puzzle. Now, another machlek is a machine. Is a machine allowed to make tzitzit? Is it going to be kosher? So as a machlekes, one din says that a machine has to have a din. You have to have das and kavana to make tzitzit. A machine has neither, so it would be puzzle. According to another shita, that it is kosher because as long as the person that is pushing the button has kavanah that, okay, I'm going to start the entire factory, I'm going to push the button that makes hundreds of thousands of tzitzit, it is kosher as long as he has kavanah that he is making it. Now remember how I reminded that the tzitzit is equivalent, or it reminds us of the 613 mitzvot. Now, how does a piece of wool remind us of that? So we see that I said that there are 5 knots in tzitzit. If you look at all your strings, all your tzitzit right now, there are 5 knots. Each knot represents the 5 books of Torah. Now there also are 4 strings. The 4 strings represent every direction there is a ability to do a mitzvah. And then lastly, the gematria of tzitzit is Sadi is 90, Yod is 10, do that again is 200, and then the Tuf is 400. It's only 600. The other 13 are the 5 knots and the 8 strings. So equivalent, the tzitzit is equivalent to 613 mitzvot. Now, I also wanted to go into Shema because Shema talks about tzitzit. So during Shema, anytime you're saying Shema, you must be wearing tzitzit. Gadol, I believe it's a both, or Gadol, I believe it's a katan. Tzitzit tzitzit, you have, it says the Shema you have to be wearing tzitzit. I don't think it matters if it's a gadol.
Have to be wearing tzitzit, but
You should be wearing tzitzit. While saying Shema, by the words of Vayitem Oto, one should look at the two front tzitzit while he has in his hands while saying Shema, and why should he be seeing? It told Korn why you should be seeing the front two when you bring them up to when you bring it to your left hand, is because the two knots. It's two knots, so it's two tzitzit strings, so it's equivalent to 10 knots, and the 10 knots has 16 strings. So in total, it's 26, which is the gematria of Hashem's name. So they say you should have, for good segula, you should definitely have that in your hands while saying Shema. Now also, during Shema, you should hold the tzitzit on your left hand, as I said, and hold it to your heart. And why you should be holding it to your heart is because it says here in Shema, which literally translates, these words should be in your hearts, referring to that the mitzvah of the Torah, all the mitzvah in the Torah. Now, when you bring your tzitzit to your eyes during Shema, when you say al tzitzit, the Shulchan Aruch definitely recommends you doing it because it's a segula that you should never suffer from blindness when you bring it to your eyes. Now, what I've seen are, it happens more than often, people don't know this, is that there is a halakha when a person is leaving or when he's folding his talit gadol, the owner of that talit gadol should be folding his own talit. Now, what happens if he doesn't, if someone else does it, now the owner of the original that has his original talit, he might not have as much success he might lose some success because he is responsible for his own talit gadol. Now, I did want to go over a couple of segulas here from the Maran. So right here it says, "Kol mai sheish lo tefillin b'rosh v'zura." Anyone who wears tefillin on his head and his arms, tzitzit bigdo, and wears tzitzit, and mizunah b'tocho, and has a mezuzah on his door, michuzek hu shalo yita sherei yesh lo mizachrin rabim. There's going to be a special protection from him from doing averot. And the reason is because it's going to have a constant reminder 24/7 of who he is as a Jew. Again, the tefillin in the morning, mezuzah when you enter your house, you're going to see it all over. You remind yourself, if you think about maybe something that you're not supposed to do, obviously there is a reminder constantly that there is Hashem, you're a God-fearing Jew, and you obviously know from there. And then also, vehem melachim she mitzalin oto melachto. These are like the malachim that protect him from sinning. Now, also goes in further that from the Shar Shuva adds on, Chune malach hi Hashem siviv leria. An angel of Hashem rests around the people that fear Hashem when you hold on to these reminders, tefillin, mezuzah, and talit, and tzitzit. And then it continues on here. V'chein amar al mitzvah had tzitzit af shemitzut ein metzilot mitzar. Even though most mitzvahs do not protect you from doing avera, mikol hamakom mitzvah tzitzit. But wearing tzitzit protects you from doing the avera, because again, the reminder that when you're wearing it, it will always remind you that you are a God-fearing human. And then another segula I have here. It talks about the Kaf HaChaim says Yiritem Oto. You see the tzitzit, uzratem et kol mitzvotav. Says this is a quote in Shema. Remember all the mitzvah of Hashem. Now you could look at the simple way. It says, it's a reminder of all the mitzvot. But if you look at another understanding, it's where you will remember everything that you've learned. So it's not just you remember all the mitzvot that there are in the Torah. You're also remembering all the things that you've learned, which is very important. And another the Zohar here says, Mevo Zohar Hakadosh HaTzitzit O Shamrot Al Hadam. Tzitzit protects a person. Umagdina Allah Mipnei Bizikim Richunim Malachei Chavla. It protects him from spiritual forces, Shindalids, and from destructive malachim. And the Kav Ashir says here, Mevo Ki Reit HaTzitzit Me'olei L'Nitzur. It's looking at the pair of tzitzit itself protects you from ayin hara. So that's also another great segula. And there's another interesting thing when it comes to the corner of your tzitzit. A corner, kanaf, has the same gematria of nas. So, which is anger. So whenever, it says that tzitzit also helps you be less angry, be less destructive. So anytime you feel that you see that yourself being a little frustrated from something, just always have in mind to just take a peek at your tzitzit, and it'll obviously give you the reminder that, again, you are a God-fearing man. There's a Hashem there that always has, is always above you and always loves you. So, and then I also want to have a couple stories about the power and the Segulot of tzitzit. So Rabbi Hab and Rabbi Razag gave me a story that there was a bacher who was a younger person, maybe below bar mitzvah, and he was going through a very bad disease. It could have, I'm not sure what it was, but maybe it would have been, it was cancer or some other thing that he needed some special treatment. And when he went to the hospital to get this, radiation treatment, it could be chemo, this kid, they told him to, clean, sterilize yourself, and go into this robe, and we'll bring you into the next room. So this kid was very, very on top of wearing tzitzit during the day and night. So he would wear it 24/7. So he didn't want to take off his tzitzit during this procedure. He wanted it to, special protection, the segulot. He didn't want to take it off. So he cleaned himself, and he cleaned his own tzitzit so he could be at least obligated or have the option to go in and wear it. When he went to the other room, the nurse was calibrating how much radiation chemo he should get, and now the kid, the nurse sees that he's wearing tzitzit. And right away, the nurse said, "You have to take it off." The kid was stubborn. He was like, "There's no way I'm taking it off. I'm sorry." The nurse said, "I can't go with the procedure unless you take it off." And the kid ran outside and just sat outside until he was thinking what to do. He was sitting outside for 5-10 minutes, and then a doctor walked past him and asked him, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I have X, Y, and Z disease, and I need a special treatment, and the nurse is not letting me take off my tzitzit." So the doctor right away wanted to, obviously look into what's going on, and he went inside the next room and talked to the nurse to see what's going on. 5 minutes later, the doctor walks out of the hospital room and was in the biggest shock. His face was white. He was in shock. He went up to the child and said, "Do you know what just happened?" He's like, "No, other than the fact that the nurse is not letting me go in." He's like, "The nurse got the wrong file. The file had the chemotherapy as an adult. If you weren't stubborn to wear your tzitzit, you would have surely died within minutes." So we see here, just by being more on top of wearing tzitzit in certain situations, it could be, in maybe sports, or it could be working out, could be a lot of things. You would have a segula, obviously, to be protected in every way. Now, another story that my Rebbe told me is, Rabbi Hab told me that there was a avrech in Yerushalayim. For most of the year, he would be out into yeshiva, being an avrech, make some money, and then come back for Pesach and be with the family. So finally, after 7 months of this money, he was coming back for Pesach, and he was on the way. He went into a taxi, and he closed the door on his tzitzit, and the tzitzit ripped. And right away, he told the driver to stop, and because he was very makpid that he would never go 4 amos without wearing tzitzit or with a kosher pair. At the point right now, his pair is puzzle. So he right away told the driver, "Please stop." The driver stopped right away and then told him, "Hey, my tzitzit, I need a pair of tzitzit immediately." The driver doesn't have tzitzit. He's like, "I don't have it." He's like, "Well, we can't drive until I have." He's like, "Well, then get out of my car. I'm not driving you." He's like, "No, please, could you please get it, because I'm going to be stuck on the side of the road." The driver's like, "Nope, can't do it." He's like, "I'll pay you my entire 7th month salary." So the driver can't say no to that. So he took the money, went and never came back. He completely just took his money. So this avrech was on the side of the road for could be hours until he finally saw a religious yid and told him, he told him the situation, and he bought him a pair of tzitzit. Fast forward a couple months later, this avrech, had a sick brother-in-law, his sister's husband, who was deathly sick. And the doctors completely gave up. They said there's no chance. He would have maybe days until he dies. So this avrech, he saw this. He was obviously very heartbroken that this was happening. But he said, he had an idea. He said, take my pair of tzitzit. He literally took it off, put it on, and says, hopefully by the zechut of me not going down with that tzitzit, you will be saved. Within 3 weeks, he was literally a 360. He was completely saved. He was completely cured of the disease, and he, because of this, he was, because of the zechut of him not going Dalet Amos without tzitzit, his brother-in-law was saved from a very life-threatening disease. Another story that I heard, this is more recent. After the Hamas attacked Yerushalayim, all these soldiers have the one thing that right away, the first thing that we all did was we donated, and we all try to donate as much CC as possible to the soldiers. There's obviously a reason for it. The soldiers really believe that CC is a very powerful thing, and it happened to be around 5 months ago. It was a sad story, but there was a lot of light into it at the end, where there was a soldier who finally got his first pair of tzitzit during the war. And he had a battalion going into Gaza with around 15 soldiers. Overnight, they were ambushed, and all of them were killed except for him. And at this time, the IDF they were seeing that all these Nifter's soldiers, they were getting all their uniforms stripped from Hamas because they wanted to pretend they were IDF soldiers, get into bases and destroy it or try to just infiltrate the bases. So at this time, they saw that if anybody came by themselves, they would expect that it was a Hamas soldier. So this guy who just got his very first pair, his entire battalion was killed. He was running back to his base, and right away when they saw him from around 100 meters away, they right away were going to shoot him and kill him because they thought he was a Hamas soldier. They recognized the uniform. They saw that this entire battalion was killed. There's no way there was a survivor. Right away, the soldier, before he took the shot, he saw something dangling on the side of his shirt. It was a pair of tzitzit. And they didn't shoot him. And happens to be he was not a Hamas terrorist. He was a actual IDF soldier. And the last story I definitely want to go over is something that I've heard for years, and I definitely take it over. I always bring it and have in mind when I wear tzitzit. Is when the Vilna Gaon was on his deathbed. A lot of people came up to he was not in the best of moods. He was obviously he was dying, but at the same time he was very, very sad. And his Talmidim came one time to visit him and saw him. He was very upset. They told him why. He's like, Rebbe, why are you upset? You're about to go to the Gan Eden. You're about to go to the highest of levels. You're going to be next to Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu. You're going to be learning. You're going to be in the greatest place ever. Why should you be sad? The Vilna Gaon right away, he mentioned a bunch of mitzvot that he's going to be missing, but the one thing he definitely was a factor, one thing that really came into play of this, one thing he really was going to miss, which he mentioned, is, yes, I'm going to be going to Gan Eden, I'm going to go Olam Haba, but in Olam Haba is the end game. You can't do any more mitzvot after that. I am going to be losing out to be doing the mitzvah of tzitzit, to going to your local store and buying the easiest mitzvah in probably the entire Sefer Torah. It's probably the easiest thing to do. It's wearing a pair of tzitzit. So I give a bracha to everybody that all these segulot should come forth for you, and that you should be taking seriously the mitzvah of tzitzit and all the segulot that come with it. And I nominate Yehuda Rappavar for doing the next year.